Emily Vorty, who serves as the Biden administration's White House Associate Director of Disability Outreach in the Office of Public Engagement. Emily was born with osteogenesis imperfecta and is a wheelchair user. Much of her work in the White House is ensuring that space is carved out for voices of persons with disabilities across policy issues. This includes partnering with agencies to ensure that policy reaches stakeholders and recommending opportunities for the President, First Lady, Vice President, and Second Gentleman to engage with the disability community in meaningful ways. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you so much, John, and for all those at the Department of Transportation that made this meeting happen. It is a privilege and an honor to be with you all today. Thank you also to all of you from the public, experts in your field, allies that are joining this meeting today. Your presence, your expertise is ensuring that this issue be taken seriously, ensuring that equal access, full participation are ensured for those of us with disabilities who use air travel. As John mentioned, my name is Emily Vorty. To give a brief visual description, I am a white woman with blonde shoulder-length hair. I'm wearing a white top, and you can't see in the frame, but I use a manual wheelchair in my day-to-day life. So this topic, like it is for so many of you on the line, is incredibly important to me. As John also mentioned, I serve in the White House Office of Public Engagement as the administration's liaison to those with disabilities across the country. As he mentioned, so much of what I do is creating space for voices in the community to share our bully pulpit. So I want to reserve as much time as possible for you all to be able to do just that, to share your insight and your perspective on access for individuals with disabilities in air travel. Just briefly, before I turn it over though, I want to just reiterate how important economic self-sufficiency, independent living, equal access to opportunity are for the Biden-Harris administration. From day one, the administration ensured representation of disability in the administration, both through roles like mine and through appointments across the administration, ensuring that the voice of disability, that representation of disability was impacting all issue areas. Biden-Harris administration believes there is no one disabled perspective, nor is there certainly one disabled issue. As the first ever administration to track self-identification of disability, we are proud that most recent metrics show that over 6% of appointees in the Biden-Harris administration self-identify as disabled. Proud of this number, but we know that number only stands to improve to reflect the full representation of disability across the administration. I'm so honored that colleagues like Kelly Buckland, like Kings Floyd, and others across the Department of Transportation are using their experience, their expertise to inform issues of transportation, ensuring that our community has equal access and is basic humanity is respected in interaction with transportation in our day-to-day lives. The last thing I'll say is while I am tasked with interacting and liaising with our community, I believe, and certainly the president believes, that there is no one experience of disability. We are as diverse as our diagnoses. We are as diverse as the intersections that make up our lived experiences. So I want to thank you today for bringing your own perspective, your own witness to this conversation. We know that our interactions with air travel are so frequently fraught with emotion and hurt and pain and trauma. And know how grateful this president is, that I am personally, for your willingness to join today and share those experiences share in that expertise, again, so that we can continue to make the experience of air travel more equitable, more accessible to those of us with disabilities. So with that, I will turn it back over to John. Know that I will be here for as long as I can today to share in your expertise, share in your witness. And I just thank you once again for being part of today's conversation.
Thank you, Emily. We're so glad that you're able to join us today, along with everybody on this call today. Also very excited that our keystone speaker for this morning is Pete Buttigieg, who currently serves as the 19th Secretary of Transportation. As Secretary, he's leading the department in achieving its goal of ensuring that transportation is accessible to all Americans, including persons with disabilities. Prior to joining the Biden-Harris administration, Secretary Buttigieg served 7 years as an officer in the U.S. Navy Reserve and 2 terms as mayor of his hometown of South Bend, Indiana. In 2019, he launched a historic campaign for president, but in 2020, he suspended his campaign and campaigned for the election of the Biden-Harris ticket. He is a graduate of Harvard University and a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford University. Secretary Buttigieg, we're so glad that you could join us this morning.
Well, thanks so much, John. And I want to thank everybody who's part of this event. I certainly want to thank Kelly Buckland, my colleague who you heard from a moment ago, who's been a crucial voice in this space for years and is helping us now to advance this work here at DOT. And my friend Emily Vorty, who you just heard from, doing terrific work at the White House in her leadership role on disability outreach. And I want to thank the organizations represented here, including Paralyzed Veterans of America, Airlines for America, IATA, the International Air Transport Association, the Rehabilitation Engineering and Assistive Technology Society of North America, RESNA, and so many more organizations, as well as the many, many individuals on this call. The last time many of us were together was this past fall as we were celebrating the 35th anniversary of the Air Carrier Access Act, one of the most significant pieces of civil rights legislation in this country's recent history. And as I said then, the fundamental promise of our transportation system is that everyone should be able to travel freely to the places that they need to go to. And if a person isn't able to travel simply because someone else decides it's too hard to accommodate them, the whole world shrinks. The world shrinks in a very big way for that would-be traveler. And it shrinks for anyone else who would benefit from that traveler's presence and contributions. That's why this administration and department are so committed to continuing our work to make air travel more accessible. Just last week, we proposed a new rule that would increase the size of lavatories on single-aisle aircraft so that passengers who use wheelchairs can have better access to them. Travelers with disabilities shouldn't have to choose between dehydrating themselves or avoiding air travel altogether. And yet, to date, there is no federal rule requiring accessible lavatories on single-aisle aircraft. And we know that it's time to change that. So we're really looking forward to gathering your feedback on the proposed rule and ideas for how we can move this effort along quickly. We've also hosted a productive public meeting on how to improve onboard wheelchairs, and we've continued our work with the ACAA Advisory Committee, which recently completed its report with key recommendations for improving accessibility in air travel more broadly. That includes ticketing practices, seating accommodations, and of course, how assistive devices are moved and stowed. I want to thank the committee members who are here today for your efforts on that report, which we're hoping to translate into our own work, including issuing an Airline Passengers with Disabilities Bill of Rights. We're looking forward to learning a lot more through today's conversations, and I'm pleased to announce that in the days ahead, we'll be working on a new rulemaking that would make damaging or delaying wheelchairs a violation subject to fines, improve training for airline employees that handle wheelchairs, and do a lot more. Let me close with a broader point, which is that according to the CDC, 1 in 4 Americans has a disability. And many people who don't have a disability today or identify as part of the community will develop one later in life. Disability cuts across race, gender identity, income, language, and more. And that makes the disability community one of the most internally diverse in the nation, as well as the largest group of Americans covered by civil rights legislation. And it's a simple truth that no nation can succeed if a quarter of its population is not able to fully participate. We know that, as well as the moral and simply civil imperative of ensuring that everybody is served equally and accommodated appropriately. It's also the case that many innovations, which begin as disability accommodations, wind up benefiting everyone, from curb cuts to closed captioning. And all of that's to say that the investments that we make in accessibility today will benefit all Americans in the decades ahead, whether they develop a disability or not. Because when more people are able to work, to travel, to access the resources they need, it means that our economy, our country, and everyone's lives are better for it. So yes, we know and we recognize that transportation is a field where we see major barriers to accessibility. We also know that when we do it right, transportation policy can break down barriers and allow everyone to reach our fullest potential. I'm looking forward to hearing some of the discussion to come, and hope that all of you enjoy this conversation. And again, thank you for everything you're bringing to this, because this will shape very important decisions that are ahead for this department and for this country. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Secretary Buttigieg, and thank you to Emily